Hi, I'm Holly, and with my sister Heather, you're listening to Haunted Family Podcast, a weekly podcast about the paranormal, unsolved mysteries, and even true crime.
And today's episode is everything and none.
This episode came about because kind of twofold. One, we realized that we had scheduled a topic, and this would have been like the third time that we covered this same topic. And also, it's crazy for both of us right now. I know we say that every week. One of these days we will slow down.
But, I've been busy in the sewing shop, and then tomorrow morning, bright and early, I'm going to pick up 2 nukes of bees and trying to get everything ready because I'm going away for a couple days next week to go to a concert. Yeah.
You're not going to see the Metallica tribute band
No,
again,
but they do have concerts coming up soon, and we're going to go to it. No, I scored tickets to see Slayer in Cincinnati. It is their final tour ever.
Is it the final tour, or is it the next?
They're saying it's the final tour.
So it's, never mind, that's a different band. I was going to say, it's the final countdown.
There's like 5 bands playing with them, so it's going to be a really long day. And when you have farm animals, a really long day starts even earlier. Because you got to make sure all your animals are taken care of before you can go about your really long day.
Sounds fun. Okay, I'm not that busy, but I have a day job, so I've been doing my day job, and I have been working like crazy on my Etsy shop, Cat Hair and Glitter. Actually, there's no and, it's just Cat Hair Glitter. And I have been making new shirts.
If you listen to our last episode about Bridgewater Triangle, our Pukwudgie shirts are up. They're for sale. They are super cute.
They are super cute. Actually, one actually says Pukwudgie, cute and deadly.
You know, when I hear that, I think of Abby.
Yeah. Actually, Emmy.
Yeah, both of your kids. They're really cute. And they're kind of dangerous.
But yeah, so I've been working on shirts, and I don't know why I just suck at social media so much. And
our Instagram is really pretty much the pinnacle of our social media-ing.
It is. And so I don't know, I never had any of these marketing tools that you're supposed to have in order to grow your businesses. And so I'm trying to set up a Facebook for the Etsy shop, and I'm off and on debating on a Pinterest for it, and I do have an Instagram for it finally, and I don't know, I'm just slow to get started on any of that. And anyway, it's slow going. Other than that,
but you do make really super cute shirts.
I do, and now I can make mugs that match any shirt in my shop. All you have to do is just send me a message or let me know. And it's not vinyl, so like the mug, you can toss it in the dishwasher or the microwave or wherever, and it's not going to peel off.
So your new gadget, you will hold up to dishwashers?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yes, it's fun. That, because we're busy and all of that other stuff. So last year we decided that we were going to start a Patreon. I know you guys are probably like, what? This is the first we heard of it. Well, that's because we do well to record an episode a week and me to get it edited. And so for us to do a bonus episode a week or a month or whatever, for it to be worth your while to subscribe to our Patreon, we just couldn't schedule time to get that done. We did exactly one. We never uploaded it. And then we decided to release that this week. Only when I went back, I could only find my audio of it. So anyway, that's how organized we are.
Yeah.
So we're going to recreate it.
We are very non-professional podcasters.
We are.
But we're trying and we're getting better. Our one and only Patreon episode was actually a very interesting episode.
I thought so. It is kind of the story of us. This is us. You know, why this, you know, the hows and whys of us. Kind of an about page in audio form.
Yeah.
Which is so much more interesting, I think.
And we ran the first episode sort of through questions.
Yeah.
And I could not, for the life of me, find my original notes on it that had all of our questions. So I sat down today in between making sure that we had everything set for getting the bees tomorrow and watching really cute baby chicks hatch to write more questions.
So, the number one question.
Are we really sisters?
Well,
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I have yet to do a 23andMe, so I'm going to say that the jury is out.
But your oldest daughter looks just like me.
That's true. So, odds are, I mean, and our parents have always told us that we're sisters.
And we do have the same blood type.
And we do have the same blood type. So, chances are, yes, we're sisters. And we were raised together. But yeah. I'm going to hold out that we might not be until one of us does a genealogy.
Okay.
But if we do a genealogy and we turn out that we're related to the Zodiac Killer or something, do you have any idea how excited I'm going to be? I mean, that sounds
I don't want to
awful.
I don't want to be related to Ted Cruz. He's got weird hair.
So does everybody in our family.
True. But yeah, we're really sisters. The children who make cameos on the show really are Holly's children.
They are. At one point, Hannah did our editing before she abandoned us for a real job.
Yeah, we don't pay well. We pay nothing.
Actually, I would buy her a taco $5 box every time she edited, and apparently that was not enough. So
a $5 fill-up box does not fill up the tank of her car.
No. So she abandoned us. Well, and also that was during the time where we had all kinds of technology issues, which we'll get to at a later question. But it was just a rough time for Haunted Family Podcast, and she quit on us. And
I don't blame her. She stuck it out longer than,
she was the only
longer than some people would have.
Yeah. So I took over editing, and I probably suck at it.
Before Hannah took over, I did the editing, and Holly thought I was exaggerating about how long it would take me to edit a podcast.
Yeah. I did.
And then Hannah took over, and Hannah was taking about the same amount of time. Yeah. It takes... We struggled in the early days.
It takes me about 3 to 4 hours per 1 hour episode.
But when we was having all of our tech issues, it would sometimes take me 3 to 4 days.
Yeah. Thank God it doesn't take that long. Okay. So why are we Haunted Family Podcast? Actually, hold on. Let's answer the question of why a podcast first.
Okay. Actually, I think we don't have podcast down until middle of my list, but we'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
I did not want to do a podcast.
No, she wanted to do a YouTube, but
which we have a YouTube channel now.
We do, and I was driving probably 4-5 hours a day for work, and I stayed awake listening to podcasts. and I would listen to mostly true crime, lore. At the time, I did a lot of Truth and Justice and Undisclosed. Of course, Serial is what got me started, and then I, and then just, various other Generation Y, True Crime Garage. I listened to all of those hours and hours and hours on the road.
I listened to the podcast also, but not nearly as much as Holly did. I listened to The Art of Wrestling with Colt Cabana. Yes, I like wrestling. The Modern Homesteading Podcast. The Paranormal Podcast with Jim Harold. I loved his podcast. And I listened to Lore and Homesteading.
Oh, stuff they don't want you to know. Sorry.
Yes.
I don't know how I could leave them out.
We both love stuff they don't want you to know. I actually discovered their podcast through their YouTube channel.
Which maybe people will ours too. I don't know.
So yeah, she wanted to do a podcast. I wanted to do YouTube. She's the older sister, so she won out.
Yeah, I almost can say I literally twisted her arm. It was kind of this is what we're doing, and if you're doing it with us, it's just me. If you're doing it with me, then this is what we're doing. So, she was like, fine, we'll do a podcast. And then we had the argument of, well, what's our subject? Because I wanted it to be strictly true crime.
I wanted it to be more paranormal.
Yeah. So, we compromised. Mom would be so proud of us. We compromised and decided that we would alternate weeks.
But then we decided, well, we can't just have true crime and paranormal. It's a little too black and white.
Right. So we tossed in some unsolved mysteries.
Yeah, unsolved mysteries, just weird happenings. Just sort of flesh it out, and every now and then throw a little curveball to our listeners.
Right. And it was
and at the time, we had no listeners.
Right. Yeah. And I don't remember when into our podcasting that we decided to add the stupid criminal, but it just hit me one day that
it's maybe been like a year that we've been doing that.
Yeah, that there's a lot of really stupid criminals. I think I was reading like a Darwin Award kind of thing, and it kind of hit me that, you know what, we could totally be talking about this because it ties into our podcast, and it's kind of something funny to end a otherwise really serious and heavy topic.
And we live in an area where there's a lot of stupid criminals.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of stupid criminals.
So, why Haunted Family Podcast? This is actually probably one of the few things that right off the bat we both agreed on.
Yeah.
But we agreed on it for different reasons.
Right. So, I was having trouble coming up with a name for us. I was actually thinking that we would probably search better in iTunes searches if we had true crime actually in the title, or something murder in the title, or something, that people would probably, like a good SEO, search engine optimization. I was thinking that would work, but I couldn't think of anything. And
yeah, anything that didn't sound lame or wasn't,
yeah, it seemed like all the
just
good
a play
names,
off of somebody else's.
Yeah, everything good I felt was already taken. So, Heather suggested Haunted Family because, well, one, we're family, and two, the haunted is a play on, one, paranormal is haunted, but two, our favorite FBI profiler. I don't know. Does most people have a favorite FBI profiler?
We do.
We do.
He actually, one of the titles of one of his books was The Cases That Haunt Us.
Right. And that's kind of where we got that, is that these cases are haunting. And so it's haunting all around. It is true crime haunting and it is paranormal haunting. But either way, our stories stick with you.
Yeah, and we come from a family that has a very long history of experiences with paranormal. not just, me and Holly, but our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents all have stories of paranormal experiences. So, I mean, the name worked for us on all fronts.
Yep. Okay, which brings us to, are the ghost stories we tell true?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if we are talking about a haunted place like Leap Castle or Waverly Hill stories that don't relate to, like, that are not from our time there. Any story where we're talking about a place that we have not been to personally, Winchester House, for example. I can't guarantee those stories, but I can guarantee that the person who told those stories believed that what they saw. So yeah, I'm gonna say I mean, and if I do think that it's made up or there's an explanation, I always try to say that during our episode. So I think that you would know that by now, that if I think it's bullshit, I'm gonna say it. But all the stories that we personally tell are 100% absolutely factual truth and happened just as we tell them.
Yeah, like all of our stories from college.
Yep.
From the haunted dorm rooms. Absolutely 100% true. The stories we tell from our childhood. The house we lived in that backed up to a coal mine that was haunted. Everything that we told you that happened absolutely happened to us.
Yep. Which actually transitions to the next question. Earliest paranormal experience.
Definitely that house in Van Lee.
Yeah. So mine was before Heather was even born, and there's 6 years between us. I can remember I've always had trouble with insomnia all my life.
We both do. Our mom jokes that we never learned how to sleep through the night.
No, and I mean, it's true. We don't. I'm a terrible sleeper to this day. Like last night, it was probably 4 something before I went to sleep, and I had to get up and go to work this morning. So
if I go up there to spend the weekend with her or something, it never fails. At about 3 a.m., we all sort of migrate to the living room to watch stupid things on TV.
Or play Cards Against Humanity.
Yeah, because none of us can sleep.
Yeah. I mean, it's genetic. My poor kids don't sleep either. That's another reason why it would be terrible for you to break into my house in the middle of the night, because somebody's probably going to be awake and we've got guns beside us. So, like, it's not worth your time.
Yeah. Hannah will stumble out of her room with her AR-15 death machine and...
Yeah, and then, of course, because it's an AR, so you just have to clap and say, AR, activate.
Yes.
But anyway, so first experience was before Heather was born, and I don't know how old I would have been, but my first memory that I actually remember, I was 3. So I'm going to say I was somewhere between 3 and 6 when this would happen. And it would be a constant, almost... Well, I think it happened every night, but sometimes I would try to go to sleep before Mom and Dad, because if this started happening before they went to bed, like before... Okay, if I was still awake when they were awake, it was all fine. And if I could go to sleep before they went to sleep, it was fine. But if they went to sleep and I was still awake, is when this would happen. So I don't know what time it was. I just know that I don't, that probably makes no sense to you. But anyway, we lived in a single wide trailer. The head of a holler, and if you don't know what the head of a holler is, it's the very end. You cannot go any farther. This trailer, and we've talked about it on a super earlier episode, butted up against a coal mine that several people died in, like literally in our backyard. like very literally in our backyard. I've got pictures of this mine hanging up in my living room, and I can tell you where our house is in relation to this. So I don't know if what I was seeing was these people trying to make it home.
You will find in a lot of old coal camps that one of the most common paranormal experiences is seeing miners walking down the side of the road.
Yeah, and this, it's okay. It's funny if you in Eastern Kentucky, when you say a holler or hello. I went away to college and I stopped calling it a holler, and I came back and I called it a hollow, and I remember my grandma saying that was above my raisin. So for the sake of not being haunted tonight, I'm gonna call it a holler.
Thank you.
It was a one-lane dirt road.
It was graveled by the time I was a kid, but
yeah, it was.
And now it's paved.
What?
They're fancy now. They got blacktop.
Dang. Well, when I was growing up, it was dirt, and there were you couldn't have houses on both sides of the road because sometimes there's a creek that ran. But the way the road went is, our house was at the very end, and then there was my aunt and uncle, my grandparents' house, a creepy pedophile guy, and I'm not just saying that. I mean, he is convicted of molesting his granddaughter, so that's very legitimately the creepy pedophile house. Then another person's house, then my other grandmother's house, then another house, and then you're at Loretta Lynn's brother's store. So pretty much everybody on that street except creepy pedophile guy was related to us.
And now one of our uncles owns almost the whole hallway.
So everybody up there except for, one house was related to us. So we could freely walk up and down the road, do whatever. I don't know. That has nothing to do with the story. I don't know why I was telling you this. But anyway.
But it kind of relates to my story.
Yeah. So I would be laying in bed at night, and I could see and hear people, men, walking up and down the hallway. And my bedroom, which then later Heather and I shared, was literally the size of a closet. You could only fit a bunk bed in there, and the bunk bed touched from one wall to the other, and the only space on the end was enough to stick a small child through. Ask me how I know you could stick a small child through. But anyway, no, it touched from wall to wall, except just a little bitty gap. And I could lay in bed and watch somebody walk up and down the hallway, and they would just almost pace all night long, and they never hurt me, and they never said anything.
But it was unsettling.
Low murmuring. But how can you go to sleep with that, especially when you're not even 6 years old? I was terrified. I wouldn't even get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I have always had a teeny tiny bladder, so I would lay in bed and scream for Mom to come, and then she would get out of bed.
Wait, hold on. And she literally, her doctor will tell you that her bladder is like the size of a child.
Yeah, I have had bladder surgery, and that was one of the things he said. It's like the size of a 12-year-old at the time, and I was an adult, so I don't even know what size it was when I was that age. But I would scream for Mom in the middle of the night to come get me so that she could walk me down the hall to the bathroom, because I didn't want to have to walk past those people, even though they never hurt me or anything. But it was terrifying. So that was my first paranormal experience. Unless you count the time that I almost died. But I don't necessarily know that an out of body experience is paranormal. But I mean, I'll go ahead and tell it anyway.
Good, because you know what? It'll bring up a good point about vaccinating your children.
Yes. Okay, so when I was 3 months old, and I know people are going to be listening to this and be like, there's no way that she can remember this if she was 3 months old. But I'm telling you that I told the story that I am telling you to my grandparents when I got older. And they looked at each other like I had grown another head, because they also thought there's no way that she could remember this. But I'm telling you, I remembered it. And it's not our family is very much a skeleton in the closet kind of family. So they would not freely talk about this, because it would look bad on them that they almost let me die. So it was not a story that people told until I told them. But I was 3 months old, and it was around Halloween, and I got whooping cough because my uncle, who's actually my favorite uncle, I don't hold a grudge about this, because he was only 12 years older than me. Something like that. He wasn't very much older than me, and I was cute, and he wanted to hold me and play with me and touch me and, pack me around like a baby doll. But he also had a cough.
A bad cough.
A bad cough. And he would lean over my bassinet and cough on me. And Mom was young and dumb.
Our mom was like 16 when she had you?
She was 16, yeah. I mean, and she just was not equipped to handle a newborn or tell her brother not to cough on her baby. So anyway, I got coughed on, and he had a horrible cough, and it was actually, he had whooping cough, and I was not vaccinated yet.
And yeah, because I don't think you get the vaccine until you like 6 months old or something like that.
I have no idea. I just know that I was not vaccinated, and I got it. And they had no clue what was wrong with me. They took me to several different doctors. They took me to the hospital, but I would cough and cough and cough, and then I would pass out.
Our local hospital thought that she had cystic fibrosis.
Yeah, and they pretty much told Mom and Dad that I was going to have a horrible life growing up, because, my lungs were just going to be shot. But anyway, gist of the story. It was Halloween, and our neighbors were really stupid, and they would set roadblocks during Halloween, and they would set them on fire in the middle of the road. So no cars could get by.
We're talking boats, couches.
Yeah, couches. It was like UK won the national championship every Halloween. And so we couldn't get by. But this night in particular, I remember that, because I just told you that our house was next door to my grandma's. We could see it, from our house. Super, super, super close. I ended up having to walk past it to get on the school bus, for the rest of my life, pretty much. So, this night, Mom and Dad wrapped me up. I guess actually it was super early in the morning, or maybe, I don't know. And they wrapped me up in a blanket and carried me to my grandparents' house and laid me on the bed. And I remember that I was swaddled, and I remember the sensation of being swaddled. And I remember laying on the bed, and I remember coughing and coughing and coughing. And then I remember not being able to breathe. And I remember that passing out feeling again. But this time was different, and when I passed out, I could see myself, and I could see everything that was going on around me. I could tell you what my grandma was wearing. I could tell you what my papa was wearing, which that really isn't all that big of a deal because papa always wore the same thing, khaki pants and a white t-shirt. Unless he was going to a DAV meeting and then he put on his uniform, which he could still fit in. But other than that, that's what papa always wore. But I remember hearing grandma say, "Oh my God, that baby's dying." And I remember her lifting me up off the bed and saying that they had to get me to the hospital. And I'm watching all of this take place. And they carried me out the door, and I remember there was a white dog. But I didn't know what a dog was. And
I don't even remember anybody in our family talking about owning a white dog.
There was a white dog, but I did not have a word for a dog. I didn't know what it was called or anything. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a white dog. So there was a white dog. But I remember looking at it and thinking, oh, it's cute. And they put me in a car, and I remember the sensation of being, jostled in a car. And they get down the road, and there's that roadblock. And I watched Dad yell at them and tell them that I couldn't breathe and that I was turning blue. And somehow they got it moved, and I made it to the hospital. And I don't remember anything past the roadblock, so I guess I must have been revived or something. But that was the story of how I died and saw myself.
Yeah, but as you can see, she did live.
I did, and you better believe that my children are vaccinated, because as someone who has experienced that, it hurts. It's not anything at all like a regular cold. I've had pneumonia, I've had bronchitis, and it's nothing like that. I mean, obviously I died. So anyway, that's that story.
My first paranormal experience happened at around 3 years old. Our grandfather, the one that Holly just mentioned, he got very sick. He died of cancer. And it happened he was diagnosed and he died within months. It was very quick.
Was it that quick? I felt like it lasted forever.
No, it was very quick. And one day, I don't know how far after he died this happened, but my cousin and I, she is just a week older than me, was standing in the road in front of our grandma's house. And I mean, from our grandma's house on up the road, it was all family, so it was safe for us to play in the middle of the road, and we did it all the time. We're standing there, and something catches our eye, and we look up, and there's our grandfather, who is, just recently passed away, floating over us. We had two very distinctly different reactions to this. She ran into her house crying and screaming, and still maintains that it was the scariest thing she's ever experienced. I ran up the road and into my house screaming that it was the most amazing thing that Papa came back to visit me. I mean, and of course, coming from our family, they all believed us. They had no reason not to believe us. And I think that's one of the nice things about our family, is that if you tell them, hey, I saw a ghost, they believe you. There's no reason not to believe you.
Right. So what's your scariest paranormal experience?
Definitely the house we moved into after we left Van Leer. Holly had always told us that her room in that house was haunted. And I did not believe her. until she went to college and I moved into her room. And something about the house got darker at that point, I believe. But every single night...
Well, I also think, like, once I left, Mom and Dad were fighting all the time, and are we going to get divorced? Aren't we going to get divorced?
Yes.
There's a lot of negative energy in the house.
And
anyway,
every single night, I was being straight up tortured by a paranormal force. That is all I can say. I will not say it was demonic. I don't know. It was not any human spirit I've ever encountered. It was terrifying. And I'm really glad that is over and that is past. Every now and then I'll feel whatever that was near me, and it still has the ability to just stop me dead in my tracks. It is that terrifying. But I mean, I have toured, Waverly Hills. I've, wandered Civil War battlefields at night. Nothing compares to that. So what's yours?
Well, I don't know, because they're all scary to me. And I've been thinking this since you sent me the list of questions. Okay, I'm gonna do two. When our grandma died. Okay, usually before somebody dies in our family, somebody will get they'll get like a premonition, and they'll know, actually that was going to be our topic tonight, but we've already talked about it a million times. So, but before somebody dies, somebody else will usually get like a feeling or a whatever, except we did not with that, so that was weird. But with our grandma, I knew it for probably a week or two before it happened, but I was completely off. I know we've talked about this in that episode, but I thought that I was going to die. And so I made all these arrangements. I got rid of anything like that I didn't want Mom and Dad to see, all that. And this is not about that, not about her actually dying, but another family tradition is that we stay at the funeral home with the person that's dead all night.
The night before their funeral.
The night before their funeral, right.
And we kind of figured that something was going to happen on this night because our grandma's sister-in-law, our grandpa's brother's wife, called and said, and as she was hanging up the phone, she said, "You all should expect a visitor tonight."
Yeah. So and the funeral home that we use has been our family funeral home forever. So they know that this is what we do, and they're totally fine with it. So it was mid-August and in Kentucky, so it was hot. We had the door to the funeral home propped open probably 1, 2 in the morning, something like that, and we were sitting outside. Well, we started sitting outside before it got dark, and it was me and Heather, Mom and Dad's brother and his wife, his baby brother and his wife, and we were all sitting on the carport and just talking, just not even about really anything, just kind of whatever popped into our head, we talked about it. And Grandma was the only body that the funeral home had that night. And I don't know, we just decided that we were going to go back in because it's hot and it's sticky and, we're all tired. We're going to try to maybe lay down in some chairs and, get at least a little bit of sleep. And we were on our way into the funeral home. We were picking up cans and other trash from the carport. And we get to the door, and our family is on one side of the door, and Dad's brother and his wife are on the other side of the door. And we hear Grandma.
It's a big portico that you could actually drive a car through.
Yeah, and we hear Grandma say, Carrie, 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 which is Dad's brother's wife's name.
And that was Grandma's favorite daughter-in-law.
Oh, yeah.
And she didn't care who knew it.
Oh, yeah. You could not hold a candle to Carrie. So, I mean, like, we all jumped back, and it was almost as if you could hear it being said. Like, as you were hearing it, you were also, like, almost feeling it being said, if that makes any sense to you. And so our family is looking at them with, like, this horrified look on our face. And then, it's as soon as the third Carrie comes out, it's like a spell is broken. And like a weight lifts, and we're not like feeling and hearing everything that's being said. And Mike and Carrie look at us like, what's going on? Like, why did you guys get such a funny look on your face?
They maintain to this day that they didn't hear anything.
Yeah, but I mean, it was plain as day. And that was pretty scary just because not everybody with us heard it, but that was also the first time that I've ever had a full body reaction to something like that. So it's not just I saw it.
Our mom was literally peed on herself.
Yeah. And then the second one is I'm going to say this one just because really I didn't see anything, but I believe I created it. I was very, very briefly married several years ago, and it lasted 8 months. And it started out really good. Like, I mean, he was a wonderful person to date, terrible person to be married to. And
she should have listened to me.
The longer that we were married, the more rage I had towards him. And like to the point that it was triggering migraines. I'd have like 5 migraines a week kind of thing. My doctor was stumped on how to treat, because like I'd have to wear dark sunglasses because I was super light sensitive. And anyway, I was just full of a lot of rage towards this person. And he would wake up every night to a black figure staring at him.
Very menacingly on his side of the bed.
Yeah. And so he moved out. No, he didn't move out. I was packing up to move out. He stayed there. And when I was getting my last load of stuff from our bedroom, which is where he would wake up and see this black figure, I heard a voice coming from the bathroom. And to this day, I can't tell you really what it said. Not now, or something similar to that. I don't know. I really couldn't make it out. But I was just like, yeah, I'm gone.
Now,
but I moved back to this house probably about 2 or 3 years later. He moved out, I moved in, and I stayed there for a few months until I closed on the house that I live in now. And never saw anything, never had, the first any issue whatsoever with that house. So I don't know. I think that was just a lot of negative energy that I was putting out.
Yeah. Now, that house, there was a trail behind that house that led to a haunted cemetery.
It did.
And Holly's camera would not work inside the gates of the cemetery.
And I have a really nice Canon DSLR, and it would not work.
I can hear your puppies barking.
I know, they're outside. Favorite serial killer? Is it wrong to have a favorite serial killer?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, we've talked about mine because we've covered both of them. And mine are favorites just because of what they've taught me. Not that, oh, I'm enamored of the crime. But Ted Bundy, because he taught us that good looking, charismatic men can also be predators. They're not always the fat, balding, snaggletooth, sinister looking man. That good looking, charismatic, smart men who on the outside look like a really good catch can also be predators. So he is one of my favorites just because he kind of turned the tides on what does it look like to be, what does a serial killer look like. And then the other is BTK. And I know I mentioned this when we covered BTK, but he had the most impact on how I conduct my life. Because I do things, I have precautions in place because of how he gained access to his victims. So they're my favorites just because I feel like they have educated me.
Yeah. One of my favorites is Donald Harvey. And I'm sure every one of our listeners are going, who?
Yeah, I'm going, who? Who?
He was an angel of death.
Oh, yes.
And he worked for a while in Kentucky. And he's one of the big reasons why I am absolutely terrified of hospitals. He worked at the time, it was Marymount Hospital. It's now St. Joseph, London. And then he moved to the Cincinnati VA hospital. He would use things like arsenic and cyanide and insulin and morphine to kill people, but he would also turn off their ventilators. He would stick coat hangers in their catheter.
Ew.
Yeah. But as Holly mentioned, I have a very big fear of hospitals.
Well, I have a very big fear of security systems.
Like, my boyfriend actually recently drugged me to the doctor because I have really horrible frequent migraines and really bad frequent vertigo. And I had to get a CT scan. And that was my very first IV ever. And I almost passed out on her. Yeah. Terrified of hospitals, terrified of doctors and nurses, and terrified of people like Donald Harvey, who will take advantage of you in your most vulnerable state. People are cruel.
Okay, what about favorite mystery?
Oh, I have so many. So many.
Okay, I'll go. Dyatlov Pass.
That is one of my top 5.
We covered this episode also. It's also kind of one of our earlier ones. And I am completely... I don't know. I'm just so confused about what in the world happened to these people, and I would love to know what happened to them. Okay, so what sparked your interest?
Well, I have one more besides Dyatlov Pass, and I think we might actually be doing a episode on him at some point, so I don't want to talk too much about it. The Count of Saint Germain. He may have possibly been immortal.
Cool.
Like, there are reports from very reputable people for quite a long period of time who never saw this man age.
I want to not age.
So that might be one of our lists coming up. Historic accounts of time travelers also just really fascinate me.
Which we did an episode on.
Yes. So what sparked your interest in true crime?
Well, it all goes back to Ted Bundy because I was in 6th grade when Ted Bundy was executed. I remember it like it was yesterday. There was a kid in our class whose last name was also Bundy, and we gave him a hard time about, his dad, but no relation that I know of.
If you're listening, my sister is sorry for making fun of you and saying that Ted Bundy was your dad.
Yeah, actually, I was terribly shy. Like, I don't think that I ever spoke that year. I distinctly remember my teacher writing in my yearbook, I hope you talk a little more next year. And he was very honest. Like, I hardly ever spoke. I was so shy. So, I don't think I ever made fun of him and said that his dad was Ted Bundy. And to me, that kid felt like he was 7 feet tall already. Like, he was really tall. So I was afraid that he would step on me or something.
Yeah, because that happens all the time.
It actually really does. But yeah, so Bundy being executed and it being on the cover of like the National Enquirer, totally warped my brain and made me realize, that, and I grew up in the 80s, and so it's a wonder that any child ever made it out of the 80s alive. And I remember my grandma going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about Adam Walsh and how to stay safe and don't get yourself beheaded. And, she was really progressive when it came to as the My Favorite Murder girls would say, staying sexy and not getting murdered. Grandma was very progressive about that. Not so much the staying sexy, but the definitely not getting yourself murdered.
But she did believe in dressing appropriately.
Yes.
And looking your best.
She always tried to give us advice on not finding ourselves in situations that could get us hurt or killed.
Yeah.
More so than anybody. Like, I never had anybody else in my life that took an interest in, hey, if you're at a party, you don't leave your drink unattended. You always make sure that you've got a buddy or a system in place so that nobody gets left behind and that everybody watches out for each other. And
if you find yourself in danger, call me and I will find a way to you. She didn't drive. She never drove. Yeah. But we knew that if something happened to us, she would move heaven and earth to make sure that she got there.
Yeah. Yeah, I believed her when she said that. So, but anyway, probably the Adam Walsh and Ted Bundy were the two things that really started me down the true crime path. And then once I discovered John Douglas, then it was just slippery slope right on into criminology.
Yes, well, actually, John Douglas is my spark for getting interested in true crime. I remember this like it was yesterday. He was on some news station giving an interview about the Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway. And I was a child at this time, and I was sucked in. I was fascinated by everything that he was saying, even though I didn't understand most of it at the time.
Yeah, he was the 90s version of Paul Holes.
Yeah, and that's what sparked my interest. And I remember when they finally caught Gary Ridgway. That was like, that was a big weight from my childhood lifted off my shoulders. Hey, they finally caught this guy. He actually murdered, what was his final tally? 71 women?
Yeah. So, most disturbing episode?
I don't know. we've covered some disturbing things. Probably Toy Box Killer.
Oh, okay, yes. I was thinking the Brzezinski I can't remember what that's called. The one where she, that poor teenage girl's parents just kind of dumped her on this lady, and she couldn't afford to feed anybody, and so she just like mentally and physically tortured this poor girl literally to death.
Yeah, that was one of our Mother's Day episodes.
Yeah, that was bad. Like that still kills my soul to this day. That poor girl. But yes, Toy Box Killer is also wow. Actually, our cousin is she is a travel nurse, and she took a picture and and posted it on Facebook, and she was like 500 feet or something like that from where the toy box was, and she said it is creepy. Like you get that creepy feeling. She's like, I definitely don't want to be here at night. I thought that was cool because apparently true crime and paranormal runs deep in our family.
Yes.
But yeah, the Toy Box Killer episode was really, really good. I highly recommend going back and listening to it if you've not heard it from us before.
Yeah, that was episode 52. Is the Toy Box Killer, and it was a good episode. Warning: there is very graphic content in that episode.
Yes, very. I read the audio because they don't actually have a recording of him saying it, but I read the audio that he left for his victims, and it's enough to make you want to vomit.
Don't
seriously.
Don't listen to this podcast if you have small children in your car.
Yeah, I mean, my kids are used to true crime, and I still wouldn't let them listen to it. That's how graphic that episode is. I mean, Abby's 18. I probably still wouldn't let her listen to it. I mean, she's an adult. She could tell me she's going to listen to it anyway. But I would honestly prefer if neither of my kids listened to it for a long time.
Okay. Would you rather spend the night in a seriously haunted location or spend the night in a suburb that has a serial killer on the loose?
Well, I have a lot of pent-up rage. So I would probably vote for suburb with a serial killer on the loose, because I would be locked and loaded and waiting on that son of a bitch. So I would like to think that in a situation like that I would be like that lady in West Virginia last year that was about to be a victim of this serial killer, and she killed him instead. And when the police came, he had a arsenal in his trunk of torture objects. I would like to think that I would be like that. So I probably would do the serial killer.
He had hired her, for the night with the intention of killing her. Neil Falls was his name. And he has been linked to murders in several different states now.
Yeah, good for her.
Yes. Oh, it's always good to see people who fight back.
Oh, yeah. What would you do?
Honestly, I'd probably pick a serial killer also. For the pure and simple fact that it is annoying. I mean, unless I plan on staying up all night anyway. It is annoying to be woke up in the middle of the night by a ghost. It is. It is. If you don't live in a haunted house, you've never lived in a haunted house, you do not know how frustrating it is to be woke up in the middle of the night because your ghost can't keep it down.
Yeah, but I mean, I probably wouldn't sleep.
I mean, by that token, ghosts are a lot easier and safer than serial killers. Humans do really brutal things to each other, and ghosts, you can If you know what you're doing, you can handle a ghost.
Humans are awful. Yeah, so I mean, I probably wouldn't sleep if I was in the subdivision with a serial killer. Because I would not want to be asleep. I mean, I sleep like shit, so I probably would wake up anyway, but I'd want to be ready.
Yeah. So, what one crime or serial murder would you love to see solved?
I started to say really we're only kind of down to the Zodiac, but that's not really true. We've got all kinds of single crimes. I'm going to say JonBenét because my kids did beauty pageants, and I know what I was thinking when the murder happened, and I would just like to know if my thoughts on the case are correct. Well, I mean that, and a criminal gets punished, but I feel bad that her mother died before they got any justice whatsoever. And I don't know, I just love to see that one solved. But that crime scene was botched from the very beginning, so I know that one will probably never, ever, ever be solved unless there's a miracle.
Yeah. The one I would love to see solved is actually one that's kind of close to us. If you listen to previous episodes, you know that during childhood I was obsessed with the show Unsolved Mysteries. And sometimes I would think that I saw people in real life that had been featured on Unsolved Mysteries.
Yes.
Well, I still maintain that for a very brief period of time, one summer, Charles Martin Vossler and his sons, Charles Jr. and William, who he had kidnapped, actually lived next door to us.
Right, but these kids would be old enough to have kids of their own now.
Yeah, I mean, they're around my age. But their mom is still looking for them. After all these years, she still wants to see her boys. And that breaks my heart. So I would love for her to have closure. And I would love for their dad who kidnapped them to be locked up behind bars.
Yeah, I don't know how people can get away with that for so long and not be caught.
Yeah, but the guy that I think was him and the boys, they moved in the middle of the night. And the children, he said he had 2 boys, but they were never allowed outside. Ever. And, there was a lot of children around our age in the neighborhood, and we would go over almost every day to try to get them to come out and play. He wouldn't even let them come to the door. When we'd get onto the porch, we could hear them running around trying to hide. So if it wasn't these boys, there was something else going on there that was funny. And I really wish that our parents had listened to me and called the police.
But to be fair, you always said that you saw people on Unsolved Mysteries.
True. And then there was that one time I thought I saw a off steroids Hulk Hogan at Kings Island.
I know.
But you have to admit, I was probably right on this one.
Okay, on this one, yes. Not the Hulk Hogan one.
So what one mystery would you love to see solved?
Amy Bradley. I mean, I guess that's also a crime, but she completely disappeared off of a cruise ship. And every time somebody that I know goes on a cruise, I panic because I think about this. How somebody vanishes They weren't at a port of call. She was just on the boat and then completely vanished. So, I think that. I want to know what happened. I mean, I have an assumption on what happened, but, you know, she's not much older than me. So, it's just something I worry about. Not that I'm ever going to go on a cruise, so I don't really have to worry about that happening to me.
I have two. I would really love definitively to know one way or another if Bigfoot is real. I'm kind of leaning towards yes.
Oh, see, I didn't even think about Bigfoot.
And I would love to know what, if any, truth there is to the story of the monster of Glamis Castle. And actually, I think I'm mispronouncing Glamis Castle. I don't think it's actually pronounced that, but that's what I'd love. I would love to know any truth behind those.
Hey, you know what I have in my shop?
What?
Bigfoot shirts.
And they're pretty cool too.
They are.
Do you believe in aliens?
I do, but I do not believe that they are in Roswell. Everybody knows that they are at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
I believe in aliens. I'm 99% sure that I've seen UFOs. That creature that you saw in your den that day bears striking resemblance to what most people call a gray.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe in aliens. I think that it would be naive of us to think that we are alone in the universe.
Well, I mean, I do too.
Okay, I have one more question. What is your favorite mythical creature or cryptid?
Nessie.
Yeah, see, for years and years and years, mine would have been Nessie. But now I'm leaning towards Puckwudgie.
I know, which I also have Puckwudgie shirts in the shop.
We should do an episode on, like, lake monsters and stuff.
We should. That'd be good.
Nessie, the Lake Champlain monster. I mean, there's several. We should do that.
Okay.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I mean, I think that this is a pretty comprehensive episode on our likes and dislikes of true crime and paranormal. I will say, though, as a closing, that you and I differ greatly when it comes to any kind of road trip or travel. That you always want to leave in the middle of the night because the only people on the road are truckers.
Yes. But I mean, think about it though. You make better time at night because there's not many cars on the road.
Right, but I never want to leave.
People can't drive. Shoo.
I never want to leave at night because, you know, there's always the mysterious whatever that ends up in your car, or, you know, the mysterious whatever that you accidentally run over, or the, you know, creepy shit happens at night when you're on the road. Aliens could abduct you. So I just prefer to travel during the day when you're not, you know, your chances of paranormal encounters go down.
You're such a wuss.
Yes, I am.
As Abby would say, you're a wussy cat. I don't know. We've never had any nighttime experiences on our most recent road trip.
No, we didn't, but I was still worried. So, do we have a stupid criminal?
This one is courtesy of my boyfriend, who actually sent this message to both me and Holly with the caption of, "This guy needs to be your stupid criminal." And this happened the next town over from where I live, Prestonsburg, Kentucky. Ron Charles was originally arrested on the Tuesday of that week for public intoxication, possession of marijuana, and carrying a concealed weapon. He was booked into the jail, blah, blah, blah. And then he was released on Wednesday, so the next day. he decides that he's going to steal one of the orange jail jumpsuits because he thinks they look cool. He is arrested again a few blocks away from the courthouse and jail near the Brick House restaurant because people have called in him late because they've seen him running with a knife wearing an orange jumpsuit, and they're like, has someone broke out of the jail?
And I'm listening to this, and all I can think of is, man, I'm really surprised it's not somebody in our family.
I know. So he was rearrested, booked with second-degree disorderly conduct, menacing, and theft by unlawful taking under $500, and lodged back in the Floyd County Detention Center because he's our stupid criminal.
Yes.
People tickle me.
I agree. So, that's all we've got for the week.
I think it was a good episode.
It was.
Hopefully you all enjoyed hearing a little bit about what makes Haunted Family Podcast. A little insight into the madness that is us.
Yeah, if you've got any other questions that you want us to answer, we might do a, part 2 at some other point. So we love getting messages from everybody. So just topic suggestions, stupid criminal suggestions. We're open to whatever.
We would love to eventually do maybe once or twice a year a listener story episode. So if you have a personal paranormal story or a brush with true crime, send us a message at our email account, hauntedfamilypodcast@gmail.com, and we'll put you on the show. If you want to be anonymous, you can be anonymous. We don't care. Well,
yep. So
thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. If you liked this episode, please take a moment to rate and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast fix. You can also show your love by giving us a shout out on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We are Haunted Family Podcast everywhere. You can also tweet us by going to hauntedfamilypodcast.com/tweet. For merchandise, please go to Holly's Etsy shop, etsy.com/cathairglitter. If you have a stupid criminal, paranormal story, or true crime suggestion, email us at hauntedfamilypodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Thanks for listening.